Hello everybody, and it's Wednesday. I wasn't sure what to do with the day, so I'm feeling proggy, and so I did a little 30-second clip earlier this week of a picture disc that I got of a recording by Mike Oldfield and Pekka Pohjola, and I want to follow up on that because It gets even more interesting and involved than was stated in that video, where it was like, is this Mike Oldfield's album or is it Pekka Pohjola's? Well, it is both, I suppose, technically, but what makes this interesting is very much like you'll find with a lot of martial arts films, a lot of Italian films, anybody that's into the film scene the way I am, you'll have a film like, we'll say Virus. Virus is also known as Hell of the Living Dead, is also known as Night of the Zombies, and so forth and so on. There's a lot of retitling and things that run around, and some of these things are infamous for having 9-10 different titles that are out there. Turns out that can happen with albums too, I suppose, so I'm doing a follow-up on that today. The original finished recording under Pekka Pohjola is Docion Leto. Translates as the Grove of Leto, according to Google. It soon turned up under the single name Pekka under the Mathematician's Air display with this completely different artwork, and then surfaced again in Sweden looking like the original. In Swedish, Skuggornas Tjuvstart, which is reading as the false start of shadows as a rough English translation. It has since turned up under Mike and Sally Oldfield with Pekka Pohjola as US 101 with this entirely different cover again, and finally Germany just released it under their names as here. Finally, we have The Consequence of Indecisions. To me, the most hackish art of any of the album covers. This one credits just Mike Oldfield on the front with everyone else credited on the back. My view of this album art is poor has to do with the sloppy, very obvious hand scissor cutout bird pasted in there, and its entirely not matching shadow positioning on the tower. In its own way, though, I think it does still make a very nice, very colorful picture disc, and the back of it is kind of pretty. I'm just finding ways to not handle it there, but just sort of a circle of clouds going on in the back, and more text. This one's on the Happy Bird label. Many of these are on a very suggestive looking label called Love Records. The album itself, I think, is actually a great piece of work. It's a nice instrumental album, progressive mix of jazz and art rock. Primary instruments are piano, moog, bass, and electric guitar with percussion. It has some funky vibes to it. It has some rock vibes to it. Pekka's bass playing is incredibly melodic and incredibly studious. It's just really, you can tell he was a real master, an absolute master. Oldfield's presence is obvious, especially in the guitar style. It's very much like his guitar playing on most of his early solo works. The Mathematical Air display is a nice piece. The title piece, at least under the Consequence of Indecisions version, is my favorite piece. Sally Oldfield does provide some vocals here and there. They are not lyrical vocals. They're just providing melody, very much like you would find in a lot of film compositions, but they're strong. There's a short piece on there that makes me think very much of like circus tumblers and acrobats, and has whistle blaring and hop 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 sound effects, and is kind of fun. That one's kind of short and has an interesting kind of spacey bridge. There's a piece on there that's kind of a bolero that just sort of builds with a melody and repetition over a few minutes. But that title track that takes up a side starting primarily with just a piano in an almost Baroque style, and then turning into this piece that mixes rock and jazz and funk together with strong melodic composition, is, I think, the most worthwhile thing on the album, and every good reason to have it. So if you don't have it in your collection, It's not an expensive buy, especially with so many different variants out there. You can find something, and it's a nice listen. It's well worth adding. I'm very fond of it, and it's taken me a little while to get back around to having it again, but I'm glad I held out, because even though it's going to be more crackly, I really wanted the picture disc version, just because that's me and picture discs. I can listen to it in other formats if I really want to focus on it, but I'm always driven to those novelty press. So that's it for Weird Spins, and I hope you do check out the record. It's a good little prog instrumental album, and you'll find it under many titles. See you soon.